Hello everyone. In today's lecture 28, we will understand what is absence quotas, what are the methods to generate absence quotas, what do you mean by quota deduction, and how to create the info type 2006, which is basically the absence quotas info type. Let's understand what is meant by absence quotas. In absence quotas, which is info type 2006, you can manage the time accounts, for example, employees' annual vacation or sick leave. So if you are an employee of a company, you will be entitled to a vacation for 1 year, like 20 days or 80 hours. So that is nothing but your quota. So when you apply vacation for 1 hour or 1 day, then that quota will be deducted, and you can able to see, like you will be able to see how much is the remaining balance before you apply again for the vacation. Now, what are the different methods to generate the absence quotas? You can use different methods to generate the absence quotas for employees according to company's requirement. SAP has provided three different options. The first one is automatic generation in time evaluation. There is a program called as RP Time 00, which is nothing but time evaluation. This can be used to generate the quota automatically for the group of employees. Now the second one is calculation of absence quotas using a report called as RPTQTA00. So this report, which is called as RPTQTA00, can also be used to generate the absence quotas. The third option is you can manually go and create directly the absence quotas in info type 2006. Before you create, there will be some config settings you have to make, and there will be some minor configuration you have to play around to basically allow the system to create the info type 2006 manually. Now, what is quota deduction? Quota deduction, as I mentioned you earlier, like you will be entitled to a quota like 40 hours of vacation per year. Now, if you apply vacation for 1 day or 2 days or 4 hours, because some companies give the entitlement based on number of hours, and some companies they give the entitlement based on number of days. So either you apply in hours or you apply in terms of days, that quota will be deducted. That is nothing but quota deduction. And in SAP your configuration, you need to tell the system that the quota should be deducted. Now let's create info type 2006 after you decide which method you want to basically use to generate the absence quota, and also see how the quota can be deducted. So let's go to our SAP, log on. So I am logging to SAP, logging my variety. Let me put up my password. Now I am into SAP. I am going SPRO for my configuration, clicking on IMG. I am navigating to the time management. This is the time management. So I am expanding the time management node here. So this is time data recording and administration. So if you open this, in our previous lecture we have basically configured the different absences, right? Now when you have to configure the quotas, then you have to come to this point in the navigation. What is this? Managing time accounts using attendance and absence quotas. So now I expand this. Now this screen will come, this navigation. I again go and expand this and expand this, so that you know what is the configuration needed to create the absence quota. So in a previous lecture I told you how to group the employee subgroups for time quotas and how to group your personal sub areas for time quotas. I have been always reminding you that this grouping is separate for each aspect in time management. For example, personal sub-area grouping for work schedule could be different because it depends upon which personal sub-areas have the same working time. That grouping is different. But here, this grouping is for time quotas, meaning if particular sub-areas have the same quotas, like one personal sub-area has vacation quota and sick quota, and another sub-area also have the same quota like vacation quota and sick quota, then you can group those personal sub-areas to a one grouping. Similarly, employee subgroups for time quotas means like you are allowing salaried employee to have vacation and hourly employee to also have vacation, then you can basically group them to a single group, even though they are belonging to different employee subgroups, but since they have the same absence quotas, you can basically group to a single group. Now let us go to this employee subgroups for time quotas. So here in this one, it is asking which country. I'm telling USA, which is number 10. I hit enter. Now I'm searching for my employee group. So if you see, these were the employee group subgroups which we configured. Now I'm giving grouping number 1, so that it is just for my identification and also for the system that these two employee subgroups are having the same quotas. So now I gave the grouping 1. I'm coming back, and now you have the group personal sub areas for time quotas. Click on this. Now here you have to basically group your personal sub areas who have the same absence quotas. So now I have grouped my personal sub areas like Zenith Chicago, Zenith Houston to this group number 09. So basically it means like these two personal sub areas have the same absence quotas. Now after I define the grouping, now I have to go and create the absence quotas. I basically define the absence quota, like whether you are trying to define vacation or sick. This is not an absence type. Don't get confused with absence type and the quota. Absence type is different. Absence type could be vacation, leave, or sick leave, different. Quota is the bucket which has the number, total number which you are eligible for 1 year or a particular period of time. So now I'm going to define absence quota types. I'm clicking on this here. This screen comes up. So what I have done here for my employee subgroup grouping and my personal sub area grouping for the time quotas, I have defined a quota called as Zenith vacation quota. If you see here, employee subgroup for time quota types, that grouping we have given the number 1, and the personal sub area grouping for time quotas, which is number 09, and I have given numbers such as 15. Any number is fine, and I have defined the basically I have given the description for this quota type, which is nothing but Zenith vacation quota. And I am telling the system that this quota should be number of hours. It could be number of days also. As mentioned, it totally depends on the company's requirement if they want to give this entitlement, I mean the quota, in terms of hours or in terms of days. Now what is time constant class? This is very important topic here. Time constant class means it basically the system reacts if a person who is applying two different sort of absence types on the same day. Think of it. You must have applied tomorrow vacation, and then you just forgot. And then today, what you are doing, again you are applying for sick leave for tomorrow. And the system knows, hey, this guy already applied for vacation on this date. Now he is again trying to apply sick leave on this particular date. So the system gives an error message because there is a collision here. There are colliding of the records, two records. So there is the collision between two particular records of the same info type. I mean info type 2001 is absence info type, right? So now you are creating two different absences on the same day. How will the system record? You cannot be vacation as well as you cannot be on sick leave on the same day, right? So system will help you there to remind you, hey, you cannot apply because there is already one record created. So I am putting 01, meaning that only one record can be created at a time. I am saving back. Now I have defined my absence quotas. Now in my slide I told you that there are different methods actually to create the absence quotas, either through the reports or you can directly go and manually create the info type 2006. So let us tell the system, like whatever the absence quota type I have created, I want the system to know that this is a quota type which I want to create in info type 2006 directly. So if you see here, calculating absence entitlement, how you want to calculate the absence quota. Entitlement is nothing but quota, right? So here if you see automatic or accrual absence quotas, if you expand this and then click on this particular IM, what is it? Permit quota generation without time violation. What is time violation? In the slide I told you there is a program name called as RP time TE00. So if you go with that method, you should basically tell the system that it should go with that method. If you do not want to go with that method, then also you need to tell the system that, hey, I don't want to generate the quota based on that particular report. I want to create the quota directly in info type 2006. Now let us click on this here. Now search for your quota. The quota for my grouping 1 and 09. If you see, this was the quota which I created. So if you recall, if you go back, you will see that I created an absence quota type 15, which is Zenith vacation quota. Here I have basically selected the radio button no generation, meaning I am telling the system, hey, you don't have to generate the absence quota, I will go and create it manually. That is the reason why you have selected these two options here. Now not two options, I mean basically I have also created another absence quota for my grouping. So that's what I meant. I'm selecting for both these absence quotas. I have selected the radio button no generation. No generation means I don't want the system to automatically generate the absence quota. I want to go manually and create the absence quota. Now after this, my work is done, meaning I have grouped those employee subgroups, I have grouped the personal sub areas, I have defined the absence quotas. Also I have told the system, hey, now basically I am going to create the absence quotas. Now if you go to info type 2006, so what is info type 2000? Before going to that, you should also tell the system like, hey, my absence type, whatever your absence type is there, that should be deducted from the quota, right? That should be deducted from the quota. So this is the place where you need to configure what it is, quota deduction. So you have to create a deduction rule. What is deduction rule? Think of an example. You have vacation 30 days and you have some other time off like 10 days. Now you are going for some international trip or vacation where you think, oh, I have to be out of the country for 50 days, 50. But your vacation is maximum 40 days. Then you want to utilize another quota which is like another time off. Then in that case, if the company policy says, okay, if the employee completes one quota, he can also use the next quota. That you have to define in this deduction rules. So see here, I have created deduction rules for the absence quotas. If you click this one, it will show you the one which I have created here. So this is the Zenith deduction rule which I have created for my grouping. So if you go to details, it shows that this is the deduction rule. What is the deduction rule? I just created some 900 number. But if you see this deduction rule, what it is showing? It is showing two quotas, meaning when you apply for a vacation or any leave, the first quota which will be used will be this, and the second quota which will be used will be this. So in the sequence you can put whatever the quotas you want in a sequential order, meaning the system will first deduct the number of absences from this quota. Once this quota is completed, means there is nothing there in to deduct from it, then it goes into this and pick up whatever is remaining from there. So this I have created a deduction rule. Now how will the system know this deduction rule is applicable for your absence type? No, till now the system doesn't know that, because you just created a deduction rule and you just left it here, because you are telling the system, hey, this is the deduction rule and it should basically go and deduct this quota and it should go and deduct this quota. But till now you have not told the system that this deduction rule is applicable for a particular absence type which you are talking about. So now if you recall the previous lecture about the absences, recall, I'll go back here, see absences here, absence catalog. If you go to absence counting, I'm just recalling you the previous lecture, but what I'm going to show here is when you assign the counting rules to absence. Yesterday you remember, I assigned the counting rule to absence type because you defined a counting rule and you also have to assign the counting rule to absence type. Otherwise the system will not do, unless you link them together, the system will not know what you are doing and what you are telling the system to do. Now if I click on this assign counting rules here if you see personal sub-area grouping 09, if you see my zenith leave here, what is it showing? I know I have assigned a counting rule, but I have also indicated that whichever counting rule this is assigned to the absences, then this absence should be deducted from the quota, whatever the quota I just showed you in the deduction rule. What does it mean? It means whatever the counting rule I am entering it here, this counting rule is assigned to this absence type, and I am also telling the system, hey, this absence should be deducted from the quota. That is the reason why I have tick marked this checkbox. So whenever you apply a leave for zenith leave, it will deduct from the quota. Which quota? Just now we have seen the deduction rules. In that we have given the quota. So this is how you basically tell the system like the quota should be deducted. Now I'll go to the counting rule here. What the counting rule we have created? This is defined counting rules, right? Click on the defined counting rules and search for your counting rules, because I want to show you where I have assigned the deduction rules. So I'm going to my counting rule here. So if you see this counting rule which I have created yesterday, in this counting rule, if you go all the way down, here you see the deduction rule. So now you understood, I am assigning my deduction rule to the counting rule and assigning the counting rule to the absence type. This is how it is connected. So if you just create the deduction rule and just leave it like that, system will not know what it has to do with the deduction rule. So the deduction rule, whatever you have created just now, like you have created a deduction rule, right? Zenith deduction rule. You are basically assigning the deduction rule here to the counting rule which is 001, and then you are basically assigning that counting rule to the absence type. So if you see here, you basically define the counting rule. So this counting rule had the deduction rule which you basically created here. If you see here, you have created a deduction rule here, right? So this deduction rule is assigned to this counting rule, and this counting rule is assigned to the absence type, right? So that is very important. You have to basically understand what we are doing. So first we defined the counting rule, and then we defined the deduction rule, and also made sure that your deduction rule is assigned to the counting rule. Now you are telling the system, hey, I am assigning a counting rule to this absence type, meaning this counting rule in turn had deduction rule assigned to it. So this is the connection. So if you go 3 to 4 times, you will understand what I mean. So first you created counting rule already, but now you created a deduction rule. Make sure to assign the deduction rule to the counting rule, then assign the counting rule to the absence type, and make sure that small checkbox is activated so that the system knows. Then only the system knows, like, okay, fine, this guy is applying for this particular leave, which is basically zenith leave. Then the system goes in the config and sees, hey, this guy is applying for zenith leave. So the counting rule is 001, and this counting rule has the deduction rule which is assigned to it, and then the system knows, okay, deduct the quota. So now this completes our configuration, how to basically create an absence quota and how to deduct the quota. Let's see the example. /npa30. If I want to put /n, I'm basically terminating this session. I'm going to this transaction code PA30. Hit enter. This screen will come up, which is PA30, which is HR master data maintain. I'm entering my number 50062 here, and now I'm trying to create a quota. 2006 is the info type used to create absence quotas. Now it showed me the name here. I actually created the absence quotas, which I will show you. So if you see here, I created the absence quotas. So what a quota I have created, if you remember, I have given the number 15, which is basically our absence quota number 15, right? And this is the start and end. Let me delete it and again show you how to create it, so that okay, record already deducted. Yeah, because I already applied an absence and the record got deducted, so it is not allowing me. That is good. But anyways, let me show you what actually I have configured here. This is the absence quota I have given, and I have given the number 80. I just manually entered the number 80. What is this for? It shows how many hours totally it has been deducted. Let us apply a leave and then come back and see whether some more hours have been deducted. So this is quota, not absence type. Now I'm going back. I'm going to info type 2001, hit enter. This info type came up. I'm trying to create zenith leave, which is basically my absence type. Now I'm trying to create this for 25th of April. I'm hitting enter. So it is calculating quota used is 4 hours. Why? Even though I applied for 1 day, it is only picking 4 hours. Because in the counting rules in my previous lecture, I have assigned 50% of multiplier, meaning that if the employee takes leave for one day, it should basically deduct 50% of the hours. So it is basically deducting 4 hours. I am saving. Now once I save it, let me go back to the quota and see whether it got deducted or not. Let me go and overview. See here, total is 8. So previously it was 4. Now it added another 4. So total deducted is 8. If you want to see, go this and click on change icon. It will show you the screen in a different way, but it shows you the same details. There is no difference, but the way it looks is different. It says that the quota total hours is 80. The deduction is 8, already happened, and this quota is valid for from 2014-1 to 12/31/999. Normally you normally give it for 1 year, like 2014, but for testing purpose I just gave this number. So hope you understood what is absence type, how to basically create the absence quotas, how to create the deduction rules for that particular absence quota, how to assign the deduction rule to counting rule, how to assign the counting rule to absence type, then how to create the absence type, and then go and check the absence quotas whether that particular quota has been deducted. So this ends our session. Thank you.